What's up, everybody? Bill Mack here with another edition of Pro Wrestling Unleashed. Glad you folks have clicked on the video. Thanks for watching. This is for the Smackdown recap. This is for September the 12th, 2017. Glad you just, like I said, glad you folks could join me. Thanks for viewing this video, no matter what platform you're viewing it on. We had a good Smackdown tonight. I thought the ending was really controversial, but I thought everything was pretty much up to par as a typical Smackdown show. So let's just get right into the results. This was in Las Vegas, of course, which was the theme tonight was entitled Sin City Smackdown. We see Kevin Owens coming out and saying that he's going to sue the WWE, and he calls out Mr. McMahon. And then we see Dolph Ziggler coming out, and it's Shane McMahon's music, and he's continuing on his gimmick entrance, and KO says that he thought it was pretty fun, pretty entertaining, and Dolph said, "Who knows? He may keep it or not." But you know, that's how it goes. But then he states that Mr. McMahon will be here very soon. And Daniel Bryan told him that he wouldn't like what Mr. McMahon would have to say, and Kevin Owens says, "Well, guess what? He's not going to like what I have to say." So then we have the U.S. Open Challenge. Remember last week AJ Styles extended an open invitation to Ty Dillon since Ty's been having problems with Baron Corbin for the last few weeks. Now, Ty was in command of most of this match. AJ did a pretty good job of putting over and selling for Ty Dillon during this matchup. And Ty did, at the onset, he was in command of this matchup. And he was working over AJ, and then Baron ends up, as AJ is going to set up for the phenomenal forearm on Ty. Baron interferes. AJ ends up hitting it on Baron, knocking Baron down. So then Ty gets and tries to get the Ty breaker, but AJ kicks out. AJ ends up hitting the calf crusher on Ty for the win. So then, as they go to shake hands, Baron ends up attacking both AJ and Ty. He hits the end of days on AJ on the outside and tells AJ, "When you have your open challenge next week, I'm going to be your opponent." So we see a match setting up as this between AJ and Baron Corbin now in this feud. Looks like their feud setting up possibly for them to go to the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, which is a Smackdown brand event. So remains to be seen here. I kind of like how I like Baron being a heel. I know his promos need work, but I like him being a heel. I think he's pretty good. We see Rusev. Rusev is interviewed in the back, and Rusev states that, you know, he had some time. He went back home to reflect after his loss to Randy Orton, and he felt like he wasn't welcomed home with open arms, that he felt humiliated, and he said that he felt like he had lost his killer instinct, and he said that he was going to end up having to break a legend. So it remains to be seen on what that is. Maybe more of aggressive, more of a monster of Rusev is what we're going to get. Maybe the Rusev maybe before. Look forward to seeing that. You need to rebuild Rusev back to being that strong heel force to have if he's going to be on SmackDown, which is it is a good addition for him. You know, SmackDown is the land of opportunity. Jinder Mahal comes out, and he's talking about Shinsuke, and basically, you know, he's like, well, I've got to mentally and physically prepare for Shinsuke, and he posts different pictures of Shinsuke. He makes fun of him not being able to cut promos on the mic, which is weird because Jinder can't either. He says Jinder says the same things repeatedly over and over. "Oh, you don't like me because of the color of my skin. You don't like me for the language I speak. You don't like me." All the typical same vanilla things over and over again. So odd that he's calling out Shinsuke when he himself isn't that good on a mic. He then talks about talks about his wardrobe, likening it to Michael Jackson and whatnot, and he basically cuts a promo on Shinsuke and tells him, "Look, if you become champion, if you were to beat me, the fans are going to treat you just because you're not from America the same way I'm getting treated," which I know is a heel promo because Shinsuke is well over in the WWE Universe and on SmackDown. But he tells Shinsuke that if this was to happen, you would be getting the same treatment that I'm getting. And that he will be a champion. Still retain his championship. And then he basically leaves. We see KO in the back, and he's basically giving a list of things that he wants to happen on when he takes the company, sues the company. He's going to be wanting entrances and jet planes and limousines and things of that nature. He comes up to tell Sammy, this promise that he had made back when they were wrestling at armories and stuff, and he said now that he was going to sue the company and get the company, that he was going to fire Sammy, and Sammy would have to go back and fight at armories and things of that sort. And Sammy tells me, look, I'd rather fight any day at an armory than I would to work for you. So basically extenuating their feud, which it's good fire between them because they're two really good best friends in real life, and it's funny seeing them how they can flow back and forth. You just kind of feel that hatred for the characters, but and the odds of them being really good friends, best friends, and grew up basically wrestling together. Up next, we have a Sin City Street Fight, folks. This is where the New Day, which is going to be represented by Kofi and Big E, take on the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos. This was a good physical match where the Usos, with the New Day, started out early. They with the tables and trying to bring tables out and whatnot, but then it turns physical. The Usos, however, turned the tide. They start double teaming Big E, which is where a lot of they worked him over while Kofi was down on the outside for a while. They beat him with kendo sticks, with chairs, whatnot. It was a good back and forth matchup. We see they both had gotten Big E down. They were getting on the opposite ends of the top rope. Kofi ends up pushing Jay down, and he lands through a table. Jimmy's looking at him. Jimmy goes, and he's upset at looking at Jay down on the outside. He goes after Kofi. Kofi hits that. It's like I want to call it a Pele kick. It's that kick that he kick on the outside when he does it. Everybody's doing it now. So they're obsessed. WWE is more obsessed with kicking now than I've ever seen them, because they were like doing super kicks on Big E, all that stuff. Just a lot of kicks going on. But he ends up, and then Big E sets him up, and Kofi gets on the top. He sets Jimmy up. He ends up hitting the Midnight Hour. 1, 2, 3. Guess what, folks? You have new SmackDown champions, tag team champions. The New Day regained their championship. And like I said a while ago, the only reason why they're doing this, for them to lose them so easily and gain them back, is because WWE is so infatuated with making all their current stars or their current crop of wrestlers have the records for the longest U.S. title reign, longest world title reign, longest most tag team reigns. Just a lot. They're obsessed with it. They don't like records by their older generation of having those records. So they're so infatuated. So they're saying, hey, let's give the New Day as many title opportunities and title wins as mostly, and as much as we can, and they'll end up holding the record for most title wins. So that's what New Day is on track for that to happen. So it was a good physical matchup. I will say that. I did like the matchup. Up next, we have another another title picture matchup between Naomi, who is challenging Natalya. They show up a few women in the ring because tonight was the finale of the Mae Young Classic. It showed Ronda Rousey was in the audience, and some YouTube personality, Inaya something or other. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name. It's not coming to me now. I didn't get it in my notes to write in time because really it wasn't as important to me. But I know Ronda Rousey will be watching this because she is training to be a wrestler, and she's in this 4 horsewomen storyline with the women in WWE and women in MMA. So, that's got to be set up. That's why she's appearing to these things lately. So then we end up seeing Miss Money in the Bank, Carmella. She's at ringside with Ellsworth. Ellsworth oddly doesn't say anything during this matchup, but he has a collar and a leash around his neck, which Carmella doesn't go into that, but she did tell him last week things were going to go, was going to be done her way now. So we see basically Natalya starts out strong. She's very dominating over Naomi. Naomi does make the comeback, but as she does, we see Naomi, she goes to the outside. She goes to do a splash. She ends up splashing on to Carmella and to Ellsworth. She starts punching Ellsworth. Natalya comes around from the other side of the ring. She throws Naomi into the ring post, brings her inside. Sharpshooter. Natalya gets her to tap. Natalya retains the SmackDown Women's Championship. So, decent match. You know, it wasn't the best, but it was what it was. You know, when you got gimmicks in with the Money in the Bank, you're going to kind of have matches like that. So then we see Kevin Owens in the back as Aiden English is singing, and he's telling, hey, I'm for one of the few people actually really do appreciate your voice and what you can do. So, you know, I may want you to sing the new theme to the Kevin Owens show. So then Aiden sings a little bit, and Kevin Owens is smiling as they cut to commercial. So we see Dolph comes out. He's doing his gimmicky thing again this week, and he's coming out and he states that everybody basically associates stars with elaborate entrances. So then he goes to the back and he comes out with the arm straps like Bailey and the little blow-up doll things that they have. He comes out to those, and then he comes out and he talks about people can come out with entrances but lack the talent that he has. So he goes to the back, and then he comes out Ultimate Warrior's music and has a mask on and whatnot. And when the music stops and he runs to the ring and he starts shaking the ring like the Ultimate Warrior, fans really boo him. That got him some heat right there. You know, he's trying to draw some heat to this gimmick. I like the gimmick that he's using, but it really did. He drew some heat with the Ultimate Warrior, you know, because, you know, the Ultimate Warrior's passed away and all. So he stands in the ring and says, hey, anybody can come out doing those things. Anybody can. But he says nobody can come out and outperform me. Nobody can come out and do what I do. And you folks don't care about it. You don't care about it whatsoever. So guess what? I don't care about you either. Then he drops the mic, and then he goes to the back while he's getting booed. So, good promo by Dolph. Dolph's never really had a problem with promos. It's just in getting over, and it's, you know, it's like the train is kind of passing him by, but he's trying to still get in there with a different gimmick, which I think is a pretty good gimmick. So the Hot Bros are taking on Benjamin Gable. This is basically a doormat match for Gable and Shelton Benjamin working together. This was a very quick match, a tag team matchup. We see basically the Benjamin and Gable get Mojo, and they hit their finisher on Mojo. Zack Ryder isn't happy, and they stand in the ring, and Mojo shakes hands with both of them, you know, congratulating them, you know, whatnot, and he goes to shake hands, but then he looks at Zack Ryder, and Zack Ryder's holding his jaw, and he says he turns around and he walks out and leaves Mojo in the ring with him. So, are the Hot Bros splitting up? Is Zack Ryder turning heel? Remains to be seen. It's what it looks like from what we see tonight. So it could be for the future, which I'd stated that a while back whenever, you know, they were wrestling that had that Battle Royal, I think, and whenever Mojo and Zack, Mojo threw Zack out because, you know, it was every man for himself. So it planted that little seed there, and now we see tonight he doesn't typically show sportsmanship, which, you know, that's not like Zack to do to begin with. Zack has always been this fun, cool guy, no matter win or lose. He's always been there, but looks like he may be turning heel. Last but not least, this is what we come to see. This is what's been waiting. Vince McMahon making his return to SmackDown. I think said after 7 years that he hasn't been on SmackDown, which he considers SmackDown his B show. But, you know, Vince wants to make sure that Hell in a Cell's big. He associates, you know, they've been talking about Shane and KO facing each other. Vince seems to think Shane is good for drawing money. And in his contract, he's a performer now. He's not a backstage person. He's not a creative person, or he's just a performer on the show. And in his contract, he's supposed to fight twice a year. So we've already seen him face AJ at WrestleMania. So it looks like he'll be at Hell in a Cell, and Vince seems to think when Shane wrestles, he draws tickets. So, leading up to where we're at, KO is in the ring when we come back from commercial. Vince comes out. Vince tells KO that, hey, if you want to go and file a lawsuit against WWE, go right ahead. Guess what? When you do, you'll hear me say you're fired. And Vince says, look, I've been in many court cases, and guess what? I don't lose. He also tells KO that he says, by the time this goes to court, whether maybe not be this year or the next year or the year after, maybe not after 10 years, but guess what? You'll have a B beside of your name. That'll be bankrupt. And he says, look, I suspended Shane not for what he did, but what he didn't do. He didn't finish the job because you, Kevin Owens, talked about his family, which is my family. And I'm going to reinstate him. And he tells him that I'm basically going to have a match at Hell in a Cell, you versus Shane. So then we see KO very, very wise puts his words, and I listened to this. When he said this, he says, okay, so just promise me. I'll fight him, but promise me you won't hold me responsible for beating up a McMahon. And Vince says, you have my word. I heard that. He said, A. McMahon, not Shane, but A. McMahon. So then he shakes hands with Vince, and then he grabs Vince. Then he headbutts Vince. So Vince goes down. Vince immediately starts bleeding from his forehead, from the headbutt. And then basically Vince is he gets up. Vince is down, and basically see KO hit a low blow on Vince. And then Vince tries to get up and stumble up into his one knee. KO ends up doing a super kick. And then he goes to the top rope, and then somebody comes out and they try to get him to, Kevin Owens, to get down. Don't jump on Vince, you know. Don't do this, don't do it. Then after a few minutes, then KO goes through with it, gets up on the rope. The guy moves out the way. He frog splashes Vince. Vince is down. And KO, the medics come out there, and they all go to check. The referee and stuff's checking on Vince. KO has this look in his eyes as he's going up the ramp, and then you see Stephanie coming down, and she's looking at Kevin, telling Kevin he needs to get out. So she goes down to Vince. Vince, there's a stretcher at ringside. Vince doesn't get on it, but you hear Vince saying, my ribs, my ribs. So this will probably be the last you'll see Vince on. It's maybe a one-off and on thing just to announce this. But of course, we noticed that he said he's going to reinstate Shane. So he goes up to they show Vince slowly coming up the ramp to the back as the show goes off. So overall, a pretty good show. We got new champions to talk about. Like I said, New Day won in the Sin City Street Fight. We see a match for Hell in a Cell made between Shane McMahon and Kevin Owens. We see Vince McMahon making his first appearance in 7 years. Gets really beat up for it though. So I thought overall it was a pretty good SmackDown today. I hope you folks have enjoyed my video. Like I said, I try to get these videos out as I can. If you do and you're watching this video, give me a thumbs up. Like this video, upvote this video, share if you can. Follow me if you're on VINNIE, and subscribe to me if you're on YouTube. Wherever you're watching this video, I appreciate all the support. And until next time with another recap, this is Pro Wrestling Unleashed with Bill Mack here, telling you folks, take it easy.